Welcome to Miss Row Classroom. Today we'll discuss the excerpt Poets and Pancakes from My Years with Boss by Ashok Mithran. Before we start, if you find the content helpful or interesting, please hit the subscribe button. A lot of effort goes into ensuring that each video adds value, and a subscription allows us to continue. Share the video explanations with others who might find it helpful. Views, likes, and comments really make a difference. Lastly, thank you for being a part of Miss Row Classroom's journey. Now, let's continue with the explanation. In the chapter Poets and Pancakes by Ashok Mithran, he gives a glimpse of life in Gemini Studios during early Indian cinema. The chapter highlights how various personalities contributed to filmmaking, including actors, directors, poets, and writers. Poets like Kothmangalam Subbu were crucial for creating scripts, stories, and songs, adding artistic value to the films. Despite their contributions, directors and actors often overshadowed poets and writers. Subbu and others faced challenges, including frustration over the lack of recognition and the tension between art and commercial interests. Ashok Mithran uses humor and personal anecdotes to describe these experiences. The chapter shows how, despite struggles, these individuals played a key role in shaping Indian cinema's identity. Gemini Studios, founded in 1940, was one of India's leading film studios. Ashok Mithran worked there in an unremarkable role, clipping newspaper articles. Despite the seemingly minor task, he became highly knowledgeable about the studio's internal workings. The makeup department at Gemini Studios used Pancake, a popular makeup product, in large quantities for actors like Greta Garbo and Vaijayanti Mala. The makeup room, located in a building thought to have been Robert Clyde's stables, was hot and uncomfortable due to incandescent lights. The department was a unique mix of people from diverse cultural backgrounds. It showcased early national integration in India before it was widely promoted through official programs like those by All India Radio and Doordarshan. A rigid hierarchy existed, with different staff levels responsible for actors, comedians, and extras, with the office boy overseeing the makeup application to many people simultaneously. The office boy, who was in his 40s, had hoped to become an actor, writer, or director, but found himself working in the makeup department. He also considered himself a poet. His frustrations with his career led to bitterness, especially against Kothmangalam Subbu, who he blamed for his lack of success. Subbu was an essential figure at Gemini Studios, serving as the boss's right-hand man. He was a poet, writer, and actor. He worked in the story department, contributing significantly to the creative and administrative aspects of the studio. His literary works gained recognition, although his fame in the film industry overshadowed his literary achievements. Subbu was highly resourceful and had the knack for creatively solving any problem. He deeply understood storytelling and filmmaking, making him invaluable to the studio's success. He was unwaveringly loyal to the boss and followed his instructions with dedication. Subbu was a cheerful and friendly person, admired by many for his ability to get along with people. Despite his success, Subbu had his share of critics, such as the office boy, who resented his rise in the studio and accused him of being opportunistic. Some perceived him as someone who got ahead by pleasing the boss, but his genuine talent often disproved such views. Subbu stood out at Gemini Studios for his versatility and ability to multitask effectively. While others struggled with the demands of the industry, Subbu thrived due to his creativity and adaptability. Subbu worked in the story department, which included a legal advisor, with a reputation for being cold and logical. He often seemed isolated, a logical mind among idealistic dreamers and khadi-clad Gandhians. One significant incident involved a legal advisor recording an actress's outburst, leading to her career's downfall. This became a memorable moment in the studio's history. The story department was eventually shut down, marking a rare instance of poets being dismissed from the studio, which resulted in the legal advisor losing his job. Several poets such as S.T.S. Yogiyar, Sangha Subramanyam, Krishna Shastri, and Harindranath Chattopadhyay were connected to Gemini Studios. These poets were part of the cultural fabric of the studio and were not involved in politics, preferring creative expression instead. They disliked the term communism. When Frank Buchmann's Moral Rearmament Army visited in 1952, Gemini Studios played a prominent role in hosting them. The MRA had anti-communist leanings. The visit of Stephen Spender, an English poet and editor of The Encounter, baffled the Gemini staff, as they were unsure why a poet from England would visit a Tamil film studio. Spender's speech was unclear to the staff, and Ashok Mithran later discovered that his disillusionment with communism was the underlying theme of his writings. Moving further in the excerpt, we find, after leaving Gemini Studios, Ashok Mithran discovered an affordable edition of The God That Failed, including Stephen Spender's essay. The essay gave him a deeper understanding of Spender's disillusionment with communism and a sense of connection to his visit to the studio. Ashok Mithran concludes by reflecting on how the figures at Gemini Studios were involved in film production and a part of a larger world of literature, art, and politics. He emphasizes the studio's complex relationship with creativity, politics, and personal aspirations, suggesting that there was much more to the film industry than just filmmaking. The conclusion conveys that Stephen Spender, who was earlier a mysterious figure to the Gemini Studio staff, became significant to the narrator upon discovering his association with the book The God That Failed. The book details Spender's disillusionment with communism, shedding light on why the communist-averse Gemini Studio staff might have hosted him with mixed feelings. It reveals a deeper connection between Spender's ideological journey and the studio's political undercurrents, suggesting the boss's interest in Spender's critique of communism rather than his poetry. Now let's shift to the themes present in the excerpt. First, an account of events and personalities in early Indian cinema. The theme centers on the events and people involved in developing Indian cinema, especially at Gemini Studios. The studio brought together actors, directors, writers, poets, and various workers, all contributing to the growing industry. While the creative side thrived, those involved, especially poets and writers, faced the challenge of working in a commercial environment that prioritized profit. As an office worker or an assistant, Ashok Mithran observed the inner workings of the studio, particularly the busy makeup department, where actors were transformed for films. Despite their aspirations for fame, many workers remained in low-ranking positions for extended periods. Poets like Kothmangalam Subbu gained recognition for their literary skills and became influential figures in the film industry. Gemini Studios was more than just a place for filmmaking. It was a creative space where ambition, talent, and frustration coexisted. Second, poets and writers in a film company environment. Poets and writers at Gemini Studios played an important, though often overlooked role in the film industry. They contributed by writing scripts, songs, and stories, and sometimes acting in films. Poets like Kothamangalam Subbu, S.D.S. Yogiyar, and Krishna Shastri added literary value to films, making them more artistic. Despite their literary talents, poets were less famous than directors or actors. Some poets like Subbu struggled with focusing on profits over artistic expression, feeling frustrated by lack of recognition. Poets and writers often found themselves balancing art with commercial interests, with practical figures like the legal advisor focusing on business matters. Despite challenges, poets and writers helped shape the early identity of Indian cinema by bringing creativity and literature to films. Ashok Mithran's writing feels like a friendly conversation. He uses an informal tone and often rambles, making his account easy to read and engaging. He shows interest in literature and culture. For example, when he talks about the poet Stephen Spender and his ideas about communism. He enjoys thinking about different topics and sharing them. Ashok Mithran often lets readers figure things out by making indirect suggestions. It makes his writing thought-provoking and encourages the reader to interpret the meaning. He is good at noticing how people behave and how society works, as he describes the makeup department at Gemini Studios. He often shows different social roles and interactions. He uses humor and irony to highlight absurd situations, such as the makeup process in the film industry, making his writing both amusing and clever. He is aware of his time's social and political issues, such as disillusionment with communism and national integration, and incorporates these topics into his account. Through his observations, Ashok Mithran paints a picture of time when art and commerce were often in conflict, and the creative people in the industry had to adapt. To summarize the explanation, Ashok Mithran offers a glimpse into early Indian cinema life at Gemini Studios, showcasing the impact of various personalities such as actors, directors, poets, and writers. He reveals the challenges poets and writers faced, including lack of recognition and the tension between art and business. Using humor and personal anecdotes, he highlights their struggles and successes, providing a unique perspective on the evolution of Indian cinema. This concludes the explanation of the chapter Poets and Pancakes by Ashok Mithran. Please visit our website misroclassroom.com for summaries, character sketches, themes, vocabulary, MCQs, important passages, and question and answers for Class 12 English chapters or poems, including extract-based questions. Stay tuned. In the next session, we'll discuss Indigo by Louis Fisher. If you like the content, please press the notification bell, subscribe, like, comment, and share the video. Bye-bye.